the next 3 weeks? Do
At
we
least,
know?
at least, yes.
Okay.
So hi everybody.
Hello.
So Anna, we are fortunate we have you doubled.
Oh, it's gone. Great.
It worked.
Great.
Yeah, that might be the Zoom's way of trying to retain a video signal across the network before it times out, and then it disappears.
Well, I just turned my phone back on, so maybe that cancelled it somehow.
Yeah.
How about a short check-in?
Okay.
Seeing as we're doing things differently with Tammy not being here, how about Doug goes first?
Oh boy. What are you channeling, Harry? He always calls me on waiting people out. Yeah, I seem to be adding to my conversation list, which is interesting because it's each new dialogue and each new experience is like a discovery. You know, finding resonance, finding a common heartbeat, a common sense and connection. And the most recent one was really a biggie because somebody helped me get over my allergic reaction to the concept of hierarchies, which is a relief. Not that I'm enamored of hierarchies when they are power hierarchies, when they're used in service to power, authority, and control, but there are non-power hierarchies. I suspect they're really misnomers because they're more holonic. They're more sort of nested constructs like integral and things that have progressive increases in levels of awareness and complexity. But it was nice to be relieved of the charge around the use of the word. That it's not always the same. It's the intention behind the user. And
So
and
what
with that,
group was this? What group was this that you have just?
well, this was actually a dialogue. It was a conversation with Heidi Hornlein. She's sort of putting together Wisdom Factory vision post the loss of her partner Mark, who passed away, and and she reached out, you know, to sort of recast some folks to play with, to talk with, to kick things around with, to explore things with. So I made the list, which I felt very honored by. And the Wisdom Factory has always been sort of integral rooted. And I always have my challenges with things that are color coded or alphabet coded or hierarchically structured. And it's always been a challenge for me with the integral construct. But so I felt sort of compelled to declare that, since part of the Wisdom Factory mission is to sort of address things and talk about things through an integral lens. And it doesn't help to have an antagonist in the midst. And we sort of navigated our way through it. And she was really helpful to me in, you know, getting rid of a, not a big button, but a small little button around, you know, the hierarchy meme. So,
Well, there are 3 of us on this group who have taken part in that wisdom factory. And personally, I've never experienced it as hierarchical.
yeah, neither did I. Neither did I.
Yeah. So yeah, even though she runs it and she, you know, takes responsibility for it, but yeah.
Yeah. So it was a good thing for me. I like, you know, when things push my buttons, it's never really about the thing. It's always my any distress I have is always about the fact that I still have a button that can be pushed. So it starts the inquiry process of like, what's my charge rate? Like, what's going on with this? And she was able to really help sort of frame it up and contextualize it. That made in a way that really helped. Really helped.
Good.
So that's my check-in. That's sort of what's fresh for me.
Well, I was away for 3 days and spent 2 of them on this beach called Caton Bay. I've put a picture of it up in Facebook, and the weather was amazing and was just idyllic. So yeah, it was with a friend who's from Texas, in a very dry, mountainous part of Texas. So she enjoyed it too. I think that's it for me.
I had a rather quiet week. Just working on the translation. So first translated, and now I'm correcting. So it might be better English, but still I need a native to go over it. And on weekend we will have one who will do that. So I have to finish chapter 6 with it by tomorrow evening. Yeah, and my girls are having fun in Greece. They are all 3 with the eldest with her family, so, and the boyfriend of the middle one. So it's really, really good, having a good time there and relaxing and having, good time together. And what really relaxed my system is that we had thunderstorms and a lot of rain. So, I mean, it's a little bit dumb, but just the temperature goes down by a few degrees and just breathing is different. And just a few days ago, I saw a picture that Gerst, he's the astronaut, the German astronaut in the ISS, in the space lab. And he took a picture from the Earth, and especially from Europe. And it's all dry. I mean, it's like, it looks like the Sahara, or I don't know, you don't see green. And this is really like, oh my God, what's happening? And this is all around the world. And a little bit that reflects in the polls that our Green Party is really on the rise, because it's like, finally people get what it is about. It's really like, so whole Germany is just, I mean, we have 38 degrees. We don't have that. So summer might be 28 or 30 maybe, but just in the peak, but not from May till September. So this is, I mean, it's visceral. It really feels viscerally that maybe my great-grandchildren will have to move to the poles. It feels that way. So, and you see the corn, like just small things. You could look over it. So that was something that I really felt viscerally after seeing that picture and getting a little bit more on the global picture. So yeah, that's at the moment.
I can follow that up with a report from the polls, or one of them. Yeah, I was talking or writing to a friend, I don't know him that well, but in California, and hearing a little bit about what's going on there. And then looking at the news, and there was this map of Portugal, similar to what we had in Sweden maybe 3 weeks ago, fire. And there is I have a real feeling of now this, the stuff to be really scared about is really coming. It's a strange feeling. It's almost a bit, I don't know, I can't really put it into words, but I think that we really are waiting for, there's going to be some hard times ahead, I think. I just have a feeling of that coming. I know that sounds a bit weird, but it's to the point where I started thinking about this cabin a little bit. And, do I want to be living in the middle of a really hot desert in the middle of Sweden, or maybe it makes sense to still have this place somewhere to escape to. Here it's lovely and green, but we have no mosquitoes, which is really interesting. There's normally this time of year, there's a bit of an outbreak of them, and that causes some people find that really uncomfortable, if they're out hiking. And but they're like a keystone creature in the whole ecosystem up here. They're a huge source of food for birds, and then the birds for foxes. And so when you start to see all of the pieces being impacted, it's a bit overwhelming to wonder what's really going on, that we actually can't really understand how all of these pieces fit together. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying my last week. I've been out a lot in nature with the dog and the duck. So the dog runs along and the duck sits in a pocket, and we go off and we find a little stream, and I put the duck out and she splashes around and eats some weed. And I've had a long conversation with Anna in bits and pieces about this whole duck journey, but it's been a real gift for making that time. Twice a day I go out for an hour or more and just sit on a bank and just let this duck paddle around. And I'm outdoors a lot anyway, walking the dog, but there's something that's slowed right down, or just like literally just sit there and be there, which has been really, really nice. And then work is really good. I'm racing ahead with my book, and to the point where I just can't go fast enough. I can see it all in the future and I just want to be there already. I just have to practice that skill of being patient. And so life has been good this week.
Alex, you want to check in?
Yeah, I'll check in. It's interesting to hear about the experience outdoors in nature, because it's something I love a lot and miss a lot, because I don't get much time to go out these days. And but fortunately, we have the internet and a high definition screen, so we can see places all around the world with Google Earth, zooming in and capturing people's loved treasured photographs. And that's been interesting too, because I used Google Earth Pro to go back in time, visit the places where I used to live as a child where I grew up, going down and zooming in onto Street View and looking at the buildings and the houses and seeing how much things have changed.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, there's been some big changes. I was astonished at the amount of development that's gone on in the last 30 years. But the photographs are brilliant, and the way you can stitch them together weave them into a story is amazing too. You can create your own visual journey through Google Earth by using the tour button. Create your own tour, and then it'll record your journey, and you can play it back, and you can save it to YouTube. I think you can share it with other groups too. That's an interesting thing, an interesting development. You mix that with AI and deep learning, and you'll be able to feed it into all your most interesting, your favourite topics, and let it go by itself and take you there, take you on a magical mystery tour around the world. So that's the idea for the Google boys to work on. Amazon and Apple and Google, if they got together and put a few $1 million in the kitty, they could come up with an app in no time at all. Deep learning algorithms. So that's where my mind has been at lately. And watching this development with, I got a wake up call from Harry, who's on holiday with Tammy, and we're all busting our guts to find out how that's developing. But they're on holiday with it. They're not showing up on the chat session. What a bummer. Never mind.
Take your Google Earth and zoom down on them.
Yeah, we can spy on them maybe.
Yeah, but it's not live. Google Earth's got a delay built in. It's not live. You know, you see
Yeah.
things that are not there anymore.
Then you need a drone, Alex. We
That's
can
what-
live stream it back and we can watch.
Yeah, I don't know about anybody else, but I was shocked as hell because for some reason I had an image of Tammy as being tall, sort of this really powerful, Amazon warrioress. And I always saw Harry as being sort of a small guy. And when they met, and here's Harry towering over her, and I was like, who shrank Tammy? And Harry, like, when did you get so tall? I thought you were like 5'4". And it was just
had the
really
same
fascinating.
feeling. I had the same about me, and I asked her how tall she was, and then it was a shock because she's the same height as me, and I expected her to be towering over me. Yeah.
How old is that? How tall is that?
5'2". She's 5'2".
Oh, I'm maybe a tiny little bit taller, not much.
What are you, 5'3"?
2.5 maybe.
2.5. I used to be 2 1/4. I've probably shrunk a bit.
But it's just so funny, how we fill in the blanks. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Glenn, I didn't mean to step on your check.
I was just wondering how long are they on? How long is she on holiday? Is it about a month?
3 weeks, I think, is what she said.
It's strange how you have these ideas of how tall a person is based on seeing the video. It's a little different from real life. She going to be in Holland a long time, or is it more like a tour around different places?
I think they've got a camper van and they're going to be driving around.
Yeah, I can do a little checking. You hear me okay now, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying out this microphone because because I've had some sound issues. So I heard this microphone was supposed to be very good. So I tried. It's really big. It's almost like a radio station at home.
Yeah, I feel like I want to actually see it when you're talking. Like you have to.
Yeah, but it's good though. I mean, it stands solidly on the ground, so I can really hear myself in the echo too. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I'm doing good. It's thankfully been a little bit of rain here in the last few days as well. So been a very, very dry, hot summer. So really hope that there's going to be more rain. So we'll see. I've been kind of a little here and there this summer. Been 2 weeks in Scotland visiting my mother. Then I had a really intensive meditation retreat week. So now I'm kind of landing a little bit and trying to settle in to the daily routines. Maybe establish new daily routines. So sort of have a lot of ideas, things I want to do. So pretty much where I'm at, of landing after an intense summer, a lot of experiences. So yeah, and, like usual, have a lot of projects I would like to do, but I have to figure out where to begin. And I always have like all of these ideas of things I want to do and projects I want to begin, but there's too many of them, so I have to make a few choices. So I guess that's a continuous challenge. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. So I think that's a good check-in for now.
I wanted to go back to, I guess everybody's checked in now, right? I wanted to go back to what we were talking about to do with appealing to the membership to see if they would like to be more involved by contributing money. And we never actually finished that. I don't think it was, so nothing's actually been done. Did anybody feel that they would like to take that further and get it out there?
I would love to. My experience of what happened is the sort of very specific idea of that got added, sort of augmented to with a bunch of other elements and concerns and artifacts, and it sort of swamped me out. So I sort of, stepped back for a minute from it, but I very much would like to pursue that. And I've spent a little bit of time thinking about what my feeling swamped was about. And part of it is I'm sort of carrying an idea that the old model of raising money, which is usually a solicitation that has some dimension of either incentivization or manipulation or coercion or there are the sort of like the dark arts approaches to raising money in the old paradigm. And I really sort of harbor and hold a vision and idea that those things, if I'm going to be aligned with me in terms of my values, I don't want to resort to old tricks as an expedient in service to raising money. I'd like to stay in alignment with basing it on a new model and paradigm. And I want to stop there just to see whether that resonates for anybody and what everybody's thoughts are around it.
Well, doesn't that make it easier? Because we literally just have to express in words what it is we want to test, and we just put it out there and see what happens. And
that was what I thought.
I think that because I spoke to Tammy about this, and actually I spoke to Lucy, I think, as well. Yeah, it sort of got swamped, I think, for me, because Tammy has actual needs financially, which I haven't heard anybody else expressing. I don't know whether other people also have financial needs, but whatever they are, they don't express them here. And it did seem to me that Tammy's needs are a separate issue. And I connected with her about that. And I think she is setting up a separate thing which can receive money directly for her. And that felt appropriate. And that leaves this free to be, like Lucy says, just a very simple, we're here. If you want to support this financially, we'd love to receive. Yeah.
That's a big relief to hear for me. I had attempted to do something similar with Tammy, I don't know, 7 or 8 months ago. And I guess she wasn't ready to do that. But yeah, I sort of considered doing what we had talked about on this, that one of the key elements of it is that it be as simple and clean as humanly possible in terms of the ask, or in terms of the proposition, the offer, the opportunity. And that it really only focused on, is it possible for a group like this to, establish a value ecosystem and have its members put that particular kind of value fuel in the tank, and just focus on the idea of, a mechanism for it to come in, the concept behind the experiment, and the principle that we don't know anything beyond collecting it in a tank at this point, but that whatever happens or comes or is to be downstream of that, whatever it is, will be 100% transparent. That, like, that's the only sort of representation baggage, quid pro quo, that I think we probably should be able to make commitment.
Can't we make it as simple as, this is what we're doing, this is why we're here, and there's things which are visible now to show what that is, and that's going to become more visible with the website and everything Josh is working on. And if you want to support what we're doing, and then here's a function for paying, PayPal or whatever. In terms of using it, well, there are costs like, storage. And I know that Josh needs to fix something like that for the website. So wouldn't it be smart to say, okay, well, these are what the costs, they're overheads or whatever. And then we started the process and we go from there and see what else comes along. But not to, it feels a little bit like we're in danger of making it more complicated than it needs to be by thinking about it a little bit too much. Maybe jumping in and testing is the best way to learn.
Yeah, agreed.
So I would like to propose, I mean, it would be good to hear from other people first, whether anybody objects or wants to do something different. But otherwise, I would like to propose that you get something in that message messenger thing where we can all just have a look at it and then go ahead, you know, and maybe Lucy, I mean, you know, we can all contribute to that. So let's do it. I feel like we're in a different frame now since Jean came along and just got everything going. It's like, yeah, let's do that.
I think we have to test more things and not think too much about what matches old paradigm, new paradigm. We just like to try and to sometimes to make mistakes and realize, oh no, that doesn't line up, and then try something else. But if we just sit and talk and write, we're never going to move forward on these things.
I can go down to the local meetup space and meet people there that are focusing on all sorts of issues to do with skill sharing and all that. And that's great for me, social life, that's personally. And I can also meet up with people around the world, not just in my local region. And that's why I value so much the internet discussions. But it is true that people who are in need of financial reward for their effort are looking for something, a space to carry, a space of interest to carry advertising or affiliate marketing, advertising space in the banner region of their website or something like that. But if regional websites did that, there's a chance it might work, but the other groups are already doing it, which means that they've taken a major slice of the cake already. It's a matter of testing things in the market to see what the market forces are when it comes to spending money on it. I remember going to Freelancer and asking the guys on Freelancer, thousands of people working there looking for work, to redesign a website, redesign a web page to make it look appealing to the market using their skills. And they used skills. They took their talents from the major vendors who were using professional marketers and designers, and they came up with some brilliant suggestions. And so there's lots of stuff going on out there on the big wide world of web, the cyberspace.
Yeah, I think with this new website we have a very simple opportunity, because we can show, if we have a good video library, it's like, here's access to all of the stuff we've been doing. We can have our GCC tools, maybe, which I don't know, I've been thinking about it at least that way. I don't know if anyone else does, but Tammy's discovery conversation, Sam has his commitment agreements. We have a certain kind of number of tools or methods that people use that could be described and examples linked to. So there's another resource that might be useful. And then we're just standing there saying, okay, this is who we are. This is what we have to offer. If you find this useful, we welcome a contribution, but not any more than that.
I don't think it even needs to be linked to those things. I mean, this could go up now before those things are really, you know, properly defined. This seems to me that this is just a, you know, a simple message. And when the website is together, it could be part of the website. It could be part of all the things that we do. And, you know, I'm not sure, Alex, that we're actually looking for ways to earn money. I think that's a different issue. I think it's more, what I'm seeing is more a question of people being able to feel more involved. It's a way to feel that you're contributing something. If you want to feel that you want to support this, whatever it is that you see is going on here. But it's not like we need to go out and design. Sorry, you go ahead.
So it's just the when you're marketing, you've got a bait, you're fishing for customers, and the attractive things about the discussion sessions in an open format is the lack of a hierarchy, like Doug was talking about when he started it. No hierarchy. Instead of top down, it's side to side. It's on a level playing field. That's the openness people are craving and attracted to, which is a great marketing point, a great feature to put on the list of features. So it'll go right up the top there, you know. User-driven open network. I mean, a lot of people are doing it. Mozilla and Firefox are a huge crowd of programmers and game enthusiasts that are working on open source networks.
See, when you start talking about marketing, Alex, that for me that has a completely different feel about it. You know, that we're not non-hierarchical because it's attractive to other people. And I personally wouldn't want to use that as a way to attract people, because then you would have to define it. You would have to make sure that, you know, the boundaries to it are clear. And it feels like it's using who we are in a different way, marketing. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, the essential difference is the idea is to create the means and the opportunity for members of the group, people that have signed up for the group, to contribute to the group based on the pull that they've experienced, based on whatever the motivation and driver internally for them is that made them sign up for membership in the first place. And by the way, I don't think this is the only thing that we could do or might want to try. This is one dimension, one piece, but it's certainly a very powerful enabling thing to create a channel and opportunity and say, you know, you're here, you signed up as a member of the group and something brought you here, and we're beginning to, you know, evolve and develop and grow this thing. And one piece of that is setting up this channel and mechanism for folks that want to subsidize and help and contribute money to underwrite. We envision lots of other ways that people can get involved or contribute or participate. But this is this one, and you know, here's the information that would enable you to do that. And it's viewed more through the lens of an opportunity than an ask. It's creating an opportunity for participation. And maybe that works, maybe that doesn't work, but it would be interesting in the ask and in the finding out. One of the questions I have in service, sort of channeling Gene Bellinger, is how do we handle the mechanics of this? I mean, the mechanism for payment channels, which would be PayPal, credit card processing through some processor or other, those mechanics are relatively easy. But what's the account that it goes into, and how is that established? and secured? And how is that handled, managed, administered? Just on pure, and I'm asking literally on a mechanics level, you know, on a concrete level.
Can we hear what Gertrude wants to say?
This was a question I had too. So I would go along with Anna's suggestion to that somebody makes the first draft, put it in the feed or whatever you call it, and then we can just work on that, because it doesn't have to be a big thing. One of the strategies we have in I Value, our ring coaching group, is rather starting imperfectly than hesitating perfectly. So yeah, not being afraid of failures. And the question you just rose is, I think it should be very transparent, and my idea was to put it on the website, to have one of the sections where we just transparently say what costs did we have, what did we use up for that, and maybe that somebody did some specific work and was paid for that, just to really make it easy for people to follow and to know where their money went, even if they just chip $1 or euro. And the way how we set that up, would that be something in the website, or would that be like a crowdfunding thing? Is that what would be the right way? But I think it's not in Facebook, but on that website that we should show the transparency.
There's so many options. You've got literally dozens of different descriptions for an organisation, foundation, or association, or an institution, or a religion, or a political party, or just a group. You can register it as a non-profit or corporation.
And it should be somebody who is doing that calculation, that accounting. I wouldn't love to do that.
Did you say you would like to do that?
No.
Oh. Members of GCC Facebook group. So that's where we need to just first put our thing. There are 975 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think
that's where we do it first of all.
Yeah, no, I'm literally grassroots. You know, in the concrete mechanics, there are several channels from crowdsourcing to you know, direct PayPal and other forms of contribution, receiving payments both of fiat currency and cryptocurrency, because some of the folks may be already swung over to cryptocurrency financing in their life, in which case sending us coins is easier. But the question is, all of those things ultimately resolve to an account, an end repository, a bank or equivalent, and that's something that, you know, is where the old paradigm, you know, rubber meets the road stuff exists. So who opens the account, and how is that administered, and how is that made transparent, and how is it controlled? And, you know, like, I just have a question as to how we handle that.
It also is a question, can we receive money on Facebook? Does Facebook have rules about?
Well,
you could be a registered charity and receive money through Facebook, but that's I'm in that process right now. So it's not worth going and trying it.
Yeah, that's not the issue. Doug mentions a very important issue. And maybe that's something you should think about, Doug, because your experience as an attorney to consider what kind of a contract could be most appropriate for that kind of thing. So what I can see is a sort of GCC fund that anyone who wants to support it could add something to, and many channels can be used. It has to be simple, and there's many other mechanisms that could be interesting, like, for example, the people giving donations to, I don't know, get some points or at least some way of acknowledging their contribution as a kind of proof of work. But that's kind of easy. But the issue of the account and who controls it, what are the rules? That's an important issue. Probably shouldn't be taken too lightly. So maybe, but yeah, Alex, go ahead.
They're doing it within some of these intentional communities. They have a committee meeting once a month. They talk about the accounts and the finances, and the account's usually in the name of the treasurer of the group, and the secretary and the treasurer will sort it all out with the chairperson of the committee meeting once a month. All done. They deliver the newsletter to the group.
But that's if we want to do, set up treasurer and secretary and chairperson. Do we, that's a whole other thing. And maybe it means that we can't actually do this without doing that. So somebody really needs to investigate that whole thing. Gertrude, you were going to say something?
Yeah, and also the money house. I mean, where to have the account. For me, it's very important when I'm looking at Cyprus money houses, or
careful, we're being recorded.
Yeah, that's why I didn't use any names, but yeah, I would say with back channels. So yeah, or to know if they invest in arms or whatever. So I would to be that what we want to be, we really have to look into that as well, not only the mechanics.
Our own bank. We can start our own. Yeah, we can. Anyone can start a bank.
Mm.
Lucy?
Green.
Well, I'm thinking, we are spending money. Somebody pays for a Zoom account or, storage, and I'm guessing that's Tammy. And what I'm saying is not to volunteer for her for any particular role or something. But I think we could still have some starting solution where, what would we do if we were a group of friends who wanted to organise some shared thing? One person would be nominated or volunteer, and that would all be based on trust. And we'd keep a record because we wanted to do it properly of what we spent and what came in. And that would at least be a way to start. I don't see why there's a problem with it even going to somebody's personal bank account if that's tracked as a first step.
We don't have a volunteer.
We don't yet, but we might do.
Yeah.
I propose Doug would be maybe appropriate since he's an attorney and thing.
Well, one of the challenges of that idea is that if if it's that casual, then the person catching the money is stuck with the problem of explaining it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, and by the way, this is the emergent challenge, right? Like, all we want to do is open a pipe in a channel and invite people if they want to contribute to sustaining the group to do so, right? And we're not looking to form an organization. We're not looking to incorporate. We're not looking to codify rules of decision-making or governorship or governance or any of this stuff. And all of those things are dimensions of what is required as a foundational principle to open a bank account. Now, is there a place or a jurisdiction or territory or domain that doesn't have that? Yeah. Where it's sort of like existence light. You know, you register, you fill in 3 fields, you've created a thing, you know, maybe e-Estonia or something. And you want to create an account. You know, you can create a PayPal account with an email address, your name and an email address. So it's a real question. I don't have the answer. I would be happy to research this. I've been dying to get down to the nitty-gritty of this issue and come up with a creative solution. I would love some help in that because it's not a small inquiry. It's actually a big question. And
I'll volunteer if you guide me where to look and what to look for, I will do some research to support you. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you and I will carve out like 15 minutes from our Friday treasure and and divert to this and just sort of figure out what some of those starting questions might be for what we're trying to do. I would love to find the lightest, least formal, non-sovereign, blessed or sanctioned mechanism for doing this that is possible to do it with.
Well, I think it's like Lucy said, probably somebody volunteers and just, you know, keeps it in the kitchen drawer. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's tricky. That's really tricky because most of the channels and mechanisms for people to send money need to interface with an end destination they transfer it to or credit it to. And doing that to an individual, it just raises all sorts of tickles and alarms for me in terms of the liability risk exposure of that individual potentially that I don't think needs to be. Like there shouldn't have to be a jeopardy of the person who of whoever catches the money. We should be able to do that in a way that doesn't put anybody in jeopardy.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it could be shared rather than one individual. You could share the value amongst all people. The whole group would get an equal share, or be the holder of an equal share. So if you left the group, then your equal share would be equally distributed amongst those who remained in the group.
That's a cool idea, because your share, I don't know in what system that would work, but your share stays in the pot. So you choose not to,
Yes.
I just realised I've already signed up to make a monthly payment to GCC. So someone already has a system. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I think it's important. So that's Tammy and Daniel who have something from crowd.
They have a phone there.
So we should find out. Maybe they've already have some temporary
I'll
solution.
ask Daniel. That will be my first bit of research.
There you go. Let's start close to home.
Because they have a website, you can see how much is going in. You can see who's making monthly payments.
Okay.
Right. It's probably all up there already.
Okay.
So all this discussion is, sorry.
The problem is the account. If it's not distributed amongst everyone, then it's in a single person's name. And if it's not a trust account, that's the issue you've got to have resolved.
Exactly.
You need a trust. You can have a trust account with several people's signatories, which allows them all to agree to a transaction before the transaction occurs. Very controlled account.
So Anna, we'll just we'll start with Daniel and Tammy. We'll see what exists that they had originally set up and what its parameters are, and circulate that story. And then figure out where we go from there, whether we use that or whether we need a different solution. Also, it's very possible.
We're going to make a little thing that we'll put on the message.
Well, the solicitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the solicitation. Yeah, we can do this through IM and through the instant messenger and Facebook.
Right.
But the other thing that very well may make possible sense here is in terms of lending itself to transparency down the road in terms of distributions and all of that stuff. It may make sense to find something that's actually cryptocurrency based as an account mechanism rather than traditional bank fiat currency based. Because there's a lot more interesting and flexible and creative things going on in that world around this domain too. So, let's see what we got and let's see what exists and what makes the most sense. And I wanted to share one other piece of sort of this 3,000-pound gorilla that certain people always gravitate to around, quote, decision making. And the reductionist feeling and thinking about it's either a majority or it's consensus. And it doesn't have to be either of those things. There's an article recently that framed up what it referred to as agreement-based. So the idea is that what's put forward, and I think we've been modeling that, but what's suggested or put forward is based on the idea of agreement. And if somebody doesn't have an agreement, then what is the disagreement about? And how do we creatively respond to that and address it? And when we've settled any outstanding questions, issues, or bumps, then we've arrived at something that we're doing, and we move on. And it's simple, it's elegant. And if somebody is sort of noblesse oblige, I don't care one way or the other, that's okay too. But you get to an action basis to say, okay, so this is what we're doing, we're proceeding, and everybody agrees.
What was the noblesse oblige? I didn't get that.
Well, that an agreement-based model, there may be people that just don't have a horse in the race. They don't care. Like, they're good with whatever happens and whatever's done, and so they're sort of a neutral vote, a neutral presence. But if they're, if that's their position, that's also acceptable and okay. And as long as the people that are sort of staked or have a feeling about it, that they, all agree. And if there's anybody who doesn't, that it's addressed by the collective.
Alex?
This is part of the reason why the number 75% appeals to me so much. And it's because of the huge percentage of the population who don't give a shit what's happening.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter is, you don't really have to have the number formalized. You don't have to even impose that majority, because that's really sort of a majority formulation, right? It's just defining the scale of the majority required to proceed. But yeah, the idea of this is that you're not prescribing anything. You're just working it out together.
Yeah, just have a couple of thoughts about all this. This is very interesting. The agreement based, but just to take a little step behind. I mean, about this GCC having a sort of account of its own and figuring out the best way to do that. That's an interesting project. Then there's the other version of it, which is that separate people in the GCC have their own Patreon page, and that can all be connected and linked together. So the sort of model, which seems to make a lot of sense, it's that it's like some people, let's say some people join these talks and they're mostly here because of the experience of just the conversation itself, and I kind of want to be in that mind space when I'm here. So and that's a great thing. And then there's also using this occasion to develop ideas together and projects. Sometimes it just emerges, and then there's certain teams that form around specific projects, and then those projects again can after a while be interesting for a crowdfunding campaign. And so we can have many levels where people are free to support the GCC, whatever that is. At the moment, I see it, these sub calls to be very core to it. But maybe it will be more than that as this web page comes up. But then there's also each person who can have their own campaign or project that is free to support, and there can be special teams around specific projects that can be supported. So looking in the longer run, it's easy to see a sort of larger value system which is built around this open conversation that is ongoing, which is non-committal, where people can show up, they can just leave, but this is the essence of it. And then if this core conversation moves or develops in its natural way, then out of that more specific things will come out, and then people will choose themselves what they want to focus on. And in that sense, it can be completely agreement-based. So the only core agreement of the GCC is really just to agree to show up and maybe try to be friendly and show some respect to listening and interest, curiosity, sort of the basics. Apart from that, it's very free. And then just a few things more, Alex. So I guess that seems to be an elegant model, because you have the open space in the middle where it's all about being there, being present, exchanging, sharing, learning. It's this whole deep experiential domain. And then out of this, specific individuals can form specific teams with specific projects, and that can be more specific things that might want to be supported. But I feel that at the moment we're probably not quite there yet to do it really well, but we've certainly done a lot of the groundwork, which is the relationship building, the trust, the just being here and going through these conversations, and of course the record that's being built up from it, which obviously has a tremendous value. And the point that Alex said earlier, I thought it was a little bit dismissed. I think it was a very important point. He's made the point that this was one of the characteristic features of what we're doing are these non-hierarchical open conversations. So you might say that this is the real old paradigm language, unique selling point. But it's at least it's a feature which stands out, and that's relevant in any case, to have something which is outstanding, you could say. So I feel that is very essential to this, and it's something that you can really build on, and we can do a lot more with this than we've done so far. But when it comes to specific projects, everyone's free to choose what they want to do, and everyone's free to choose what they want to support. So, yeah.
Lucy.
I'm sitting here feeling a bit frustrated for multiple reasons. So I just put a link, or it's a little way up now, to this page where I've signed up. So there's this thing called Open Collective. I've been trying to read a little bit, but so we don't know whether this system that Daniel and Tammy have set up is usable or if it was effective so far, but I'm a bit confused as to why this knowledge isn't shared. Like, why do we not know that someone's already had a shot at this? And it feels to me, I'm putting that together with some of Jean's comments recently, that I think we actually have a bit of a lesson to learn here, that some of our lack of connection and gaps in sharing information and communication is slowing us down. And not that we have some destination we have to get to, but that we are actually going around in some circles because we're not paying enough attention to things that haven't been done already. So I'm saying that without the knowledge of what the status of this thing is, but money from my account is going into it. So it's obviously functional to some extent. So is it from Sam, and so is it from Harry. So why do we not know that?
We do. You do. Those that want to know it, know it. I don't particularly want to know it. So, I mean, it's up to people who do know it to publicize it if they want other people to know it. I mean, it's nobody's role to communicate specific things. If somebody feels the need for that knowledge, then they have to ask somebody, or the person who has it, who wants to spread it, needs to do that. There's no other protocol about information.
But is there not something wrong if we're talking about that for 2 hours and something's already been set up? Does that not point to a bit of a issue?
Not for me, it doesn't. Maybe it does for you, but you've already found it. I mean, I'm discovering it, so it's fine. It doesn't feel like, oh, I should have known about this 20, minutes ago or whatever, or 20 months ago even. It feels
before. We have talked about it before, so there's an account there.
There's a legacy piece, but Alex, you put your hand up first. I don't want to step on you.
When I joined up, I should have been asked whether or not I wanted to be a contributing member or a general common free member, non-contributing. And the reason why I was asked that question should explain a little bit of detail about the GCC. It'd draw in a lot more people who would wish to contribute to something like this, I believe.
Could be asked, not should. But this is something that we're discussing now as a possibility. So what we're saying is, when you join, you could be asked whether you want to be a contributing member, and with some explanation, like you're saying, that would be perfect. But it's not like we then have to blame the fact that we haven't done it up to now, because this is what we're discussing to do now. This is the decision.
But we've done the preparation for it because we weren't ready for that before.
Who knows?
Yeah, giving people options. Options are available.
But there wasn't any GCC. That was the whole point. We had to figure out what the GCC is first. And then when we figure out what it is, then we can have something like that can be presented.
Well, so you can't justify that, Glenn, because we don't know. Maybe it's true that we could have done it a couple of months ago, but we didn't. This is where we are now. There's no point.
But we have talked about it a long time.
No.
Doug,
I just wanted to speak to what Lucy shared and I have a very, very, very small tickle of the same sensation. But the reason for it actually has to do with a whole bunch of things. The genesis of this group was in a very specific and concrete frame of submitting a proposal to a competition for funding. And Anna's son and Tammy, and I guess Sam, although I'm not sure, were sort of the original folks who stepped up to go after that, to make that happen. So the genesis of all the stuff that was done by them back then in that context was informed by that context, and also informed by, it was a small group. It was a relatively small group, a handful of people that contributed to the preparing of the submission. I came along after all of that and frankly had no particular connection or relationship to any of that. What I responded to from a poll standpoint was the nature of the people that had pulled themselves together and the openness for conversation and exploration. And so I responded to what was for me a beginning and seed crystal of a community as a group. And so that was my sort of starting place. Now, Tammy and Sam have, there are things that were done immediately in the aftermath of the submission that was done between Tammy and Sam around Sam's work, Tammy's work, collaboration, like very specific agenda things that were somewhat Sam and Tammy egocentric, for want of a better way of putting it. And some of the things you're talking about, like Tammy and Daniel and this account money mechanism thing, were Tammy and Daniel egocentric. There wasn't a greater, grander, or larger community or group or folks involved to be taken into consideration or whatever. And I think there is a legacy effect of that having been of that time and context for them. So it's not exactly burning bright and alive right now, this minute, in the context of whatever is going on here now between us. So we're asserting new pull, new interest, new drive, and it's simply a matter of asking. Now, I had volunteered to update the pinned post on the Facebook group page, and I just want to use this as an example, right? And I had administrator privileges already, like Sam had already granted that to everybody. But when I went in, lo and behold, I found out that I could not alter the copy in that post. The only person in Facebook's setup that can change the contents of a post is the first author of it. So Sam is down as the author, as the creator of that, because he put it up for everybody. So you have to go back to Sam in order for him to update the Zoom number, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, that's a problem. And Sam confirmed there was no way for him to increase the scope of share privileges. So it's not a keeping secret or keeping things private or keeping things away. It's discovering where the opacities and these blocks and these glitches are, and then figuring out creative solutions around them, right? So what I suggested and will do when I find like a spare minute sometime, which is becoming rarer and rarer, is create a straw person in GCC, create a straw account, copy that post and paste it by that straw member of Facebook and the group. And then everybody that has administrative need to go into that post will have that user's name and password, and they can log in as them and go in and make the change and log out, and all of a sudden we've solved a problem. And Sam no longer has to be harassed with every performance needs that has to be done to changes in the group information, in the group meeting information. So, it's figuring these things out, and this account money handling piece is a big piece. What I want to be very careful about is that what was set up in a very specific context by and between Tammy and Daniel, and it may or may not align with what the GCC as a group and what we are trying to evolve and surface now. And I don't want to inherit or step into it reflexively, because in Tammy's mind, for example, that, well, that's already handled, we have this thing. Well, we have to determine whether that thing for that purpose, that time, actually suits for what we are really trying to do now. It may or may not. So that's to be determined, right?
Lucy, do you still have these frustrating feelings?
Oh, you're muted. Lucy, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm just launching off. It's more a confusion, because I guess, and I've reflected on this while you've been talking, that, you know, I came along at a certain point in this journey. So I'm assuming that there are relationships and conversations. And so to me, it's like, well, why didn't we all know that this was, if Sam knew, if Harry knew, and I tripped over it, how does everyone else not know? And therefore, why did it not come up earlier? Or why was it not already in place? So that there's an assumption on my part about how information is shared, I think. But I think there is also something about, you know, our collective intelligence that we need to work on. And for me, like, whether there's no goal with what we're doing, I hope we can change this, kind of turn the direction of this ship around. But I am in this group because of, you know, I love the people here and I like being here. But there is a
interested in working on that. I'm stipulating that collective intelligence, whatever it is that you're talking about, if you want to use the we, use it for those people who want to do it. It doesn't include everybody. And that's what the characteristic of this group is.
Yeah.
People do what they want. If you see a need for that information to be put somewhere where everybody can access it and know where to find it, then that's down to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's these two conversations that that go on in this group, of something like a forward focus, and I can hold both of them, that we're going somewhere. And then there's another one that we're just being, and we're just here together. So that I think those two things aren't just going on for me. I think they are present in this space. And sometimes that for me is confusing. Okay, I want to jump on this one and move forward, or but I think with Jean coming along, for me, is definitely, there is a part of where can we do things a little bit better, so that we're not wasting anyone's, you know, effort that's already been put in. It's nice to use it and put the pieces together. That there's a danger in going too far with that then it all becomes about, you know, we're trying to get somewhere and it's all has to be efficient, and it doesn't. We're in a learning process.
If I could tweak the language, it's not about doing it better. It's enacting some of the more tangible and concrete and project-oriented stuff that people have touched, kicked around, or expressed an interest in standing up. It's about that part of the group energy and effort and generativity being activated. And the truth of the matter is it's being activated on a pull basis, and Jean was a catalyst for doing that. And it's taken a while, but it's happening. And that's not in opposition to or at the expense of or alternative to the general cohesiveness of the generative conversations and the conversation connections and energy in the being together part of this that we've also generated. It's an and, not an or.
Alex,
I love, yeah, the fact that if you happen upon something that could grow larger and become something bigger, you attract the attention of the big advertisers and marketers. They come knocking on your door because you developed an audience. If you've got a voice suddenly, this fact has to be acknowledged by the group, and I think the term Commonwealth has a ring to it. Commonwealth Bank, maybe, with all the Bitcoin and all the hollow coin and all the contributors' value, the manner that they develop by the production, the creation of their own content, can all be balanced out with smart contracts in the hollow account, or the Commonwealth Bank account, or as we like to call it, the global GCC bank account, because it's our bank. We don't want anybody else to control it. Lucy.
I just realised. So what?
Just tried to put her hand up, Lucy. Just for you.
Sorry.
Sorry. Gertrude, you wanna?
I'm
No, you've.
a little bit confused. Who was next? So I don't want to.
As I was seeing it, it was you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you go.
Yeah. I feel not frustrated, but I feel myself kind of checking out. So like, yeah, okay, I hang in here. Maybe I have an excuse to go earlier or something like that. And then I realized this is, there are two parts for me. This getting to the technicalities and things like that. This is something that tends to check me out. And there is another thing, and I don't have any clue about hollow something or crypto. I don't know. So it's like, tell me and do something, and if I know what to do, I might follow. But I'm not the one who can initiate something like that. And the second part, I feel hesitant, or there's something that my feeling gets changed when there is a should in the room. Something, we should do this. I think we don't have an agreement. We don't have an organization or something like that. And I think it's about initiative. If I'm somebody who is drawn to and I really want to do something, then I just initiate it, knowing that there might be resistance in the room, but just say, okay, guys, I want to do this and that. Any objections, or do you have any suggestions or whatever? And sometimes it's very subtle. There is something, you should do this and that, and why didn't you? And then I feel bad. Why didn't I? And I'm not contributing enough, and others did more, and there's some moral thing into it. And sometimes it's very subtle, and I only get it just half an hour later, what happened, when just I get more and more grumpy or whatever that might be, or just don't feel right. And we're doing holacracy for 6 years now, so that is very specific and very clear, and purpose, accountabilities, and things like that. But this part where you can rise above anything you're accountable or have a role in, just starting something, and others can say, okay, I have attention with it. And yeah, so I think I have to find where my initiative is, and bring that forward, as Joshua did. Say, I can do that, and so it's so heartwarming to see somebody who really does what he likes, what he loves and loves to share. And so this is, and I couldn't do any of that. And he's so patient and giving us all what we need to do, to follow. So I just needed to speak up because I found myself fading away.
Do you want to go, Lucy?
Yeah, I think it fits straight in. That, you know, using should when we're talking. I think sometimes we have to be careful of paying too much attention to the words people use, because some of it is just habit, you know, and it can be like, I would prefer, or I'm, and if we change our language, then it wouldn't, you know, press anyone's button. But I think sometimes we have to be a bit, you know, mindful of what's actually meant rather than the words used. And then what I realised that connects with exactly what you just said, Gertrude, about initiative, is that when I came across this thing, I could have posted something saying, I've been part of the GCC for the last 2 months and I've gained so much from it, so I decided I wanted to contribute. And that would have, in fact, been a catalyst maybe for other people to have signed up for this thing. So why didn't I do that? Because I feel like I have to check. Because I'm not enough of this group yet, or don't know enough of the history to know if this is okay, or less so okay, but more, am I going to mess up something else that someone else has in the pipeline? So that's the reason why not.
So
I'll do this post and we'll see what happens.
I think, sorry, Glenn, but I did have my hand up. This is really interesting because it's what happens when you sort of first join and there's such a honeymoon and everything is just amazing, you know, and then you begin to discover the sort of difficulties of being in a group like this, which isn't, you know, ultra organized, and it is really down to individuals. And for me, this is so exciting because it's, like Doug is always saying, you know, this is the new paradigm, and it means we are relying on ourselves. And I can understand the disappointment, you know, when you get to a place and ordinarily there would be that foundation there, but there isn't here. So you discover there are holes and there are gaps, and you know, and it, you know, it's really frustrating, but it can also be exciting because there's a place for you to really step in. And yeah, this idea that, well, I didn't know, and maybe there are other people doing this already, and you don't want to step on people's toes. You just have to go ahead, and maybe you do.
That's the lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the lesson I've just learned.
Well, there's also, Lucy, you wanted to post that thing about looking for folks for your organization, and you reached out and you were sort of like, do you think it would be okay? And I said, I think you should, you know, when in doubt, run it up the flagpole, go to IM, ask the core group, you know, where they're at, what they think, whether they're okay. And it took like 5 seconds for everybody to come back with thumbs up, no problem, feel free.
But is there a need to do that? Can I just not go ahead?
You could have just gone ahead. And then maybe somebody would have objected, but that would be the risk that you take. And it's the risk that we're taking all the time here of just being authentically ourselves as much as possible.
And there is, sorry, Alex.
We can leave the door open a crack.
And I think there is an in between to do it just privately or having to have consensus. I mean, there can be transparency. Say, guys, I have this and that. I just want to tell you. Objections by tomorrow, and then I'd put it out. So that the personal initiative is not capped, but But if there's somebody who says, oh, you could do it this way, or I have maybe a better idea to put it whatever, or this link, or it just to support each other, but not to hinder each other. And maybe there's something they would say, oh, we have done that. The link you just shared and said, we have one, and something like that. So if we have transparency without hindering each other, that I think that's middle ground.
I just wanted to say hello to Jethwinder. Hi.
Hi, Jethwinder.
Hello.
Excuse me, somebody's just waiting for me. I'll be back in a moment. Sorry about that.
No, I mean I want to show them to you.
The two ladies who've come. I
Just
know.
wonder,
Hello.
I wonder how many colors you have for your head.
Oh,
I saw the blue one, now yellow. Maybe you have some more.
there are different colors. I've got white, green, cream, all sorts of colors. And I generally go for the clean ones. And there's a heap of the dirty ones to go in the washing machine. The colors do have some significance. This is the color of a servitude, but it was the cleanest one in the cupboard when and the closest one. So
I really like that. I really like that color.
you do?
Well, yeah, it's wonderful.
Glenn, you were about to say something, weren't you, when I went?
Yeah.
The sound is on.
Yeah, because what I hear, we are going around in circles, but I think that's just the nature of these conversations, so there's nothing wrong with that. But like every person can start an initiative, anyone can choose if they want to add energy to it.
Both.
This has been an agreement pretty much from the beginning, and it still clearly is, as we've seen today, since this is what we all, the way we want to have it. So then there isn't this problem of a should. So I don't really see that there's a problem with any need for a should, apart from sort of the obvious things. But there, of course, yeah, Anna, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think that there is an agreement about that. There are some people who actually don't like that way of working. So, you know, we've established, well, I think Sam wanted actual agreements. And I think Tammy and Sam, to begin with, were working towards written agreements rather than the idea that everybody can just follow, you know, do the initiative that they want. So that I don't get agreement about.
Yeah, but that was a commitment to collaborate, and they made that agreement. They made those agreements. Sam's vision of a community of impact, there's only one rule: be good as you define as good. Then you can make agreements. So they've made agreements, and that's so it's like we can all make agreements or commitments to agreements that can be made between us. And then there's a sort of vague implicit agreements, like, yeah, we talk English here mostly, we, you know, certain social customs, and those, they're probably unspoken. But apart from that, yeah.
Then I could imagine a time when somebody took the initiative and other people said, why did you do that? You should have asked, you know. I can just imagine that it doesn't always follow. It's very much to do with the context and, you know, who said you should go ahead and do that on your own account? I mean, it's quite possible that other people will. To me, there is nothing fixed here.
Okay, so if one person starts an initiative, there's a risk that someone else will respond negatively.
Yeah.
That's their choice. So I make a choice to start an initiative, someone else makes a choice to criticize it, then I make a choice how to meet that situation. So what's the problem?
It's no problem. It's just that I think you're trying to find a sort of a rule that you can apply. Yeah, everybody chooses, you could say. I mean,
Yeah.
if that helps you to feel that there is a rule, then, but
Well,
maybe some will say, well, I didn't choose that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think maybe you could say that we choose how we are, or we choose what we do. So that's kind of obvious. But apart from that, it's not really any
Yes.
rule.
It's not obvious. Some people feel they don't choose. You know, some people feel, oh, I'm just, you know, in this situation and I didn't get to choose and I just had to. I mean, like, for example, the financial thing that some people have real difficulty financially. That's not a choice. And
No, of course. I was more thinking what we've been doing here, and it seems to be
well,
a
it
very
might affect what we do here.
yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to loosen it up so that we don't need a rule to explain everything. It feels like you would find it much more comfortable if there was one rule that could somehow cover everything. And then you would feel, okay. Doug, do you want to go?
Yeah, relatively shortly after joining, and Sam mentioned the agreement he and Tammy had struck. I said, oh, that's interesting. I'd love to take a look at that. And I reviewed it. And keep in mind, by the way, I'm a lawyer. Like, I spent a lifetime doing agreements. And it was it's sort of a really odd document for me. And it gave me a tickle in the way that Anna, you know, gets provoked every once in a while too, which is anytime somebody extrapolates or speaks in we, I'm reactive. Because it's like, what do you mean we, paleface? Like, are you talking for me or are you talking for you? So if I speak in the first person, the only person I'm speaking for is me. The minute I go to a we or us, I'm projecting me on everybody. And that's a huge presumption, like a huge projection. And the agreement Sam constructed, which was about making written, explicit, hard, concrete, four-corner, we agree to collaborate. What came up for me was that the hardening up of something that, in fact, really isn't effectively binding because it's a unilateral document. The person who signs it, it's them sort of locking in their end of whatever that collaboration is. And what came up for me is why? Like, why is that needed? Why does the person signing it feel the need to express themselves or their commitment that way? And the only thing that I could come up with was that it's attempting to address a fear of failure to meet the commitment, to honor the commitment. And I'm like, if I commit to do something, I'm either going to do it, or if I'm confronted with the fact that I'm not able, then I need to renegotiate. But hardening up a commitment in blank for its own sake, I just couldn't connect with a purpose other than something that was fear rooted.
But wait, you have to ask you, what do you think about me writing in the middle, in the beginning of the day, plan for today? Today I want to do this. Or let's say I commit to an agreement with another person. So I've committed to an agreement because I want to do this, not just talk about it, think about it, want to do it someday, but I actually want it to happen. Because that's what Sam talked about. Commitment to collaborate is an agreement between two people who choose it themselves because they want to do it. And so isn't it a little bit similar to sort of writing a plan for the day, or like an intention statement or something?
Well, yeah, but if you actually read and look at what's expressed, it's just really hard-edged in a way that I don't understand. Like, I don't know how it expands or increases the substantive meat of the meeting of minds and commitment and intention to work with somebody.
If you want to do it, then you're going to do it. And saying I'm committed because I want to isn't going to make it any firmer. If you break your leg and you can't, or whatever, then you won't. It won't make any difference signing a document. If you really believe that person wants to, you won't believe it any more strongly if they sign something.
But this is an assumption as well.
Yeah.
Because for some people it works. So it's
Okay.
That's absolutely true. I believe that agreement as a mechanism for Sam works for Sam. Like, it's part of his machinery. I get, and I don't judge that or him or it for that, right? But it's within the four corners of Sam. I don't know how it extrapolates or how it adds value to somebody who can't relate to it at all. And if you put it on the collective and communal plate as part of the meal, then there's a threshold question as to, if it's not for certain people, it's not for certain people. If it's for certain people, it's for certain people. But the extrapolated energy around it is, here is a tool, and if everybody used this tool, then that's been the shared statement. And that's the part of it that sort of is problematic. I have to go, unfortunately, because I'm loving this conversation and where we've gone. But I did hand Lucy co-host privileges. And so this continues even without me, if you so choose and so want to. And I'd love to thank everybody.
Me too. I want to go and say goodbye.
Yeah. Bye, Doug and Gertrude.
Goodbye. If there's a prenuptial agreement, because it might get messy if there's a divorce, so you needed a prenuptial agreement.
but that seems like an important point, that making an agreement, written agreement, if it actually works for some people, then they're free to do it. And if two people want to sign an agreement to collaborate, they maybe want to put specific times into their calendar, and that seems to be an important tool for this kind of work, and everyone's free to choose. So when you said that, Anna, that it seems like I want everything into one rule, I don't really know what you mean. I mean, when you say
because
no
you're saying
rules,
different now.
yeah, when you say no rules, it seems kind of what I'm saying. I mean, but it's like, but we have this opportunities so we can have these specific agreements and specific projects.
Yeah.
And also, someone like Doug can read through it and he says, this looks really, I don't know, little strange. And maybe that's good feedback.
But it was also that the feeling that I got from Sam when being asked to do this, and me saying eventually, I mean, I sort of agreed to do it at the beginning because I didn't see any harm in it. But then I began to feel, like Doug, that this was coming from fear. And I really didn't want to just, that it didn't make any difference to me whether I signed something or not. I was just going to, do what I wanted to do. And it wouldn't mean anything to me. So I also felt that my thing to do it really mattered to Sam. That he is, that for him, it's not just it works, but it needs to work for everybody. Actually, that's changed. I think it was like that at the beginning. And I think that he's come a long way in the sense that he's not pushing that as he was at the beginning. So it's changed.
Yeah, I don't know if he was pushing that or I don't know, but I got the impression that he imagined this community of people who really they really, it's more, maybe it's a commitment to keep showing up or something, but I mean, even that's entirely voluntary, obviously. It will be, but to have certain structure and to look at that, and I think some people need it. I think I need it.
I think it's a very core part of being human, isn't it? That we often search for ways of like finding confirmation of our connection or confirmation of our shared direction, and I think that comes out in different ways for different people. And I think there is space for it. I mean, obviously, because it is the way that it is now. There is space for us all to do it our different way.
Yeah.
And
It's
also
marriage, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people just live together, but other people feel they really want to be married.
Yeah.
And I did at one time.
Yeah.
That was important to me. And now
I really upset a friend once. She and they're both friends of mine, this married couple. They were recently married. It was maybe after a year or something. And something came up about someone who'd had an affair. And she was of the opinion that it was worse, that this person had had an affair with someone who was in a married couple, or cheating within marriage was worse. And I was saying, well, it doesn't, for me, it makes no difference. The fact that you've been married for a year is no more significant than my relationship for a year. And she was so insulted. It's like the fact that you have a piece of paper means that your year together is more meaningful than my year together with a partner. That doesn't make any sense.
well, it was to her.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just a little, just a moment out, just very shortly, it's also worth mentioning that if we get this web page up and this system we talked about, then we can have something where everyone is free to contribute absolutely exactly what they want, and we also have something shared. So these two go together, and this being and doing, it seems to be a kind of friction, but I want to come to a place where the being becomes the doing. And if this group were to just go into some narrow doing thing, then I would probably just disappear, because that's not what I'm interested in. I feel that this real focus on being at the core of it all is really characteristic of what we've been doing here, and it's what I want to do. It's what I believe in. It's what I think will change the world if we can build on each other, and then the doing will will come out of that. But it has to be this renewal too. So that's also why it was very interesting when Gene Bellinger came in, and we also had this conversation. When new people come in and they ask these same questions, what are you doing? What are you working on? And it's like, maybe that's a great thing. Maybe that's a feature of this, that you get that renewal, and then you get that chance to actually begin from the first time and ask yourself, good question. What are we doing here? Let's look at it, because it's always a relevant question. Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Thinking outside the box. I think that's what you're alluding to.
What do you mean outside the box?
Yeah, you're thinking of a community discussion in a non-traditional sense. The traditional sense usually revolves around a discussion where people bring up topics and come to a conclusion, moves it forward. But one that's more exploratory is one that just keeps asking questions, which exposes more pathways to investigate. Exploratory rather than finalising an agreement. So it's a part of a discussion. It's part of community. It's part of being involved in community and trying to create something, or wonder why you're not creating something, and what you should be creating if you were creating something.
Exactly. It's like the foundation of it. It's exploratory, and then you can have, more specific, more narrow things at the edges. But at the foundation, it's always new. It's always exploratory, and that's what I really feel is needed in the world between human beings. And I did write a rather long post. Maybe some of you read it. I said, Lucy, you said it was a little too long, maybe, but I kind of
only for me.
but it was quite long. But I just try to gather the thoughts, and I do think that there is a model where you have something that's completely open, and where you can also have direction and structure, all kinds of structures. And
is this post that you've put on?
It was this about the blogging networks, and with the fact that you can have a system where human beings all over the world can join together and share knowledge and share information and have good generative conversations like we have here, where we really try to contribute something valuable with a global perspective in mind, so that the sort of group isn't really so important. It's maybe a little bit important for a period of time, but it's really fundamentally secondary. It's more about each human being and contributing together with the global perspective in mind, and really trying to give something.
I really like that. I really liked not having a small group that you're loyal to, but you're loyal to the global as an individual. That felt a really important insight, actually, to do it that way.
Yeah, I really feel that is the natural way. That's certainly what I'm interested in working on, and that feels like that's what we just kind of been doing too.
This is the transition, really, because we have been loyal to local groups. We have been loyal to the family, to the tribe, to the region, to the the local community,
football team,
football team, clubs. But we need to become global citizens. That's the only way that we're going to survive. So that's a really important insight. Sorry, Alex.
Well, that what you just described is is the opportunity we have now with the global internet. We're all already connected in a network. So what we need to have a change-making power of the group is to make sure that the people who live in the local district know each other and have the links to each other's hub, the regional hub of the GCC, because the people making laws in that region are voted into power by the people in that region. And when there's a close election, they look at the groups in that region, and the largest group gets their attention. That's the dirty nature of politics.
Well, yeah,
So,
we do need local as well, but I think what Glenn is emphasizing is that our mindset, if you like, is focusing on global. Yeah, it's also important that we develop local facilities, because, you know, we need locally grown, for example, and local transport and local, all the facilities need to be local.
yeah, but what I'm getting at, the point I'm getting at is that our voice is not effective if it's a global voice. It's got to be a local voice.
Okay.
To make an impact on the lawmakers. Lawmakers are listening to the local people. They're voted into power in political circles.
Yeah.
So the point I'm getting at is that our voice is not loud, not making any much effect unless it's locally networked with local people, and we can count them. We can say to our local member, look, we've got 540 people in the GCC Los Angeles group, and you only need 200 to swing the election. So you better listen to our concerns about the pipeline.
Yeah. But maybe then it's local action and global, like
Reaction.
feeling that, understanding that you're part of a global thing, even if you act locally.
And,
That's it.
and also, of course, the GCC, there are people around the world, so you can have a group, let's say, of a few hundred or 10 or whatever, that can sign up to, I don't know, some collaboration around the cause. So they don't have to live in the same physical area to have that mechanism, even though it's a similar mechanism. You know, the people in physical areas, there's certainly local deals that they have to make and adaptations. So that's all true. So what this seems to be like many concentric circles, right? But foundationally, it's the question of the global cooperation is very important, because inside of that, naturally, all of the regional and also the international groups that aren't necessarily in the same physical areas, but they can be organized around projects. That's sort of all included in it. But the challenge has maybe been that people are stepping on each other's feet globally, so to say, and that there isn't this really system thinking in a global sense.
Everyone, I need to go. I need to feed the dog and myself.
Yeah, I need to go too. It's lovely talking to you guys, and
Yeah.
thank you very much, everyone.
Okay.
So
See
Good
you
night.
soon.
Bye for now.
okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.